Thank you everyone for joining us again for our alumni interview series. Today we're joined by Umesh Tiwari. Umesh, I'm going to let you tell them about yourself, but we were just talking earlier. I think this was like summer or spring of 2014. We were doing one of these experience halt events out in Mumbai, and I think we did a kind of a presentation on how to accelerate your career, how to build a global career. And I know you attended that. And that was the year that we started this fast track program, right? Where we were doing a series of summer webinars for all the students who were going to come to class. And those summer webinars were meant for you to learn about how to write a resume, how to, perfect your LinkedIn, and how to create a targeted job search plan. And I can remember vividly, you were on every one of those webinars, and you always had these questions at the end of the webinar about Q&A. And then you also sent a lot of emails around, how does this resume look, right? What feedback can you provide? And I know you worked diligently on that. Then you went to campus in San Francisco, and I know you worked very closely with Laura Mesh, who was our and still is career advisor on our San Francisco campus. And then there's a story that spawned from that in the way of kind of what you did on campus, what you did off campus, and then kind of how you landed this role with Amazon. So let's start there. Let's start with kind of your journey pre-halt, during halt, and kind of now what are you doing after halt?
Sure. And time check me if I'm going longer, okay? But then I am a bachelor's of computer science. I never wanted to do an MBA to start with, okay? My family is full of MBAs. My perception of MBAs was there's only one type of MBA, which is marketing, my ignorance, and then people go out on the road. And I don't like summer, and on the roads on summer is not my thing. And I'm also a technology enthusiast. So I went into my career 2004, started with a firm, US-based fintech firm, and then you never look back. I was exponentially growing, but then I also had this dream of launching my own company. I tried that in 2010, and though I had a very good platform, 10 media houses wrote about me and my platform. It was a career counseling platform. I failed terribly. And that was one warning sign for me that I need business education, right? I'm no Steve Jobs. I know that, and I can't do without business education. And then I also started working with my executives in the US, VPs and CTOs, and they all have done MBAs from different colleges, and I learned a lot. How to use the business acumen. Believe it or not. We say, right, when you're in India you can talk in English, but if you talk in Hindi you connect more. Same goes for business. When you are sitting with business people, if you talk their language you connect more, and you then break deals. That inspired me that okay, now it's the time. I was 32 that time. Yeah, maybe 32, 34 that time. And wanted to I was married 2010, same time I launched my company. I was married, and wanted to start my family. So I thought this is the time. Halt reached out to me. I was researching some colleges. I don't like conventional ways of education. I was looking for Harvard, Stanford, Chicago Booth. But then when I started researching on Halt, uh, it rang many bells. It connects me with the kind of personality I am. I want to connect with people. I want unconventional and more experiential way of learning. Not the, I'm not saying that Harvards and Stanfords don't do it, but I think Hult had a very innovative way of teaching people hard and soft skills. Oftentimes, actually, we ignore soft skills. But at my job, anyone can acquire hard skills. It is those soft skills that matter. Every day in Amazon, if I'm not having great soft skills, I won't do a good job, even if I'm a master at marketing. Or you won't be able to do a good job. So that's how it started. Hurt happened. um, I talked to you. I was very nervous. $100,000 in Indian rupees, if you convert, that's like your you could either buy a house or invest in your MBA. That was the decision we were making at that point of time. The accelerator program, we all have a lot of questions, right? And then such a big investment, both in terms of opportunity cost and money cannot be not planned. So I wanted steps in the process, and Hult gave me all those steps. Connected me to you. I had tons of questions on A, B, C scenarios, worst case scenarios, best case scenarios. I started making my resume then. Because of that session, I got connected with a bunch of other students. So I started talking to them. Right. Thankfully, I came to Hull, San Francisco. I met Laura. Uh, uh, Other than what she does for students, she's also my second mother because that's how she has taken care of us. Be it I've done enormous number of sessions with Laura, telling my story. Our culture, we tend to tell very subjective stories. This culture, you want to be objective, and that was a big change. I was a general manager when I left my job to do an MBA. So not that I didn't have skills, but how do you represent those skills also matters. And that's when Hull's career advisor, and especially because my career advisor was Laura, uh, came into picture, and she was so pivotal in making me tell my story in an American way. And also, she could find certain bright spots which I was not highlighting. Maybe because that was not in Indian culture. It's given in Indian culture, but not so given in American culture. And she could tell me, hey, you're not highlighting this, you should be highlighting that. uh, Probably we spent 100 hours together until the Amazon interview happened. Thanks, Laura. I still bug her a lot on my career questions. uh, but that's the kind of platform Hult gives you. But I think I remember one thing that Hult's president told me, that it's the input that you give is what the output you get, right? So just coming to Hult, not planning and not being serious, is not going to take you farther, right? You need to utilize the people resources and the broad network Hult has to be able to be successful.
Perfect. So you mentioned absolutely right. I think the idea of starting early, right? If you're making this big decision to move from abroad, to come to a new country, to do this MBA, which is a financial cost, but there's also this opportunity cost and there's this time. You definitely want to be diligent in planning. And so, part of your story there really is starting to plan early and starting to validate that plan. So at what point when you think about you arrived on campus in September, began that MBA, at what point did you start investigating Amazon? And so how did that come about? How did you learn about Amazon? How did you get connected with Amazon? Walk us through that timeline.
Yes, I think that's also an interesting story. I'm not saying I was more blessed, and luck was on my side. But then there's steps. They say God only helps you when you do your steps, right? You take your actions. So I was within the first month. I think with Laura, I had my resume ready, and then she advised me that your LinkedIn should be exactly same as your resume. Should not tell a different story. So I also had my LinkedIn ready, and then they say a lot network and network. I'm generally a very extrovert person, but I cannot network when I know that I need something. That's my bad quality. If I, so generally when you're a student and you network, people know that you're looking for a job, right? uh, and that fear, or maybe that awkwardness, didn't didn't naturally allow me to network. Again, I went to a lot of many sessions, and she told me that how important networking is. So I started networking with folks. So this Amazon story happened, and again, thanks to Hult. Olaf, who was my strategy professor, he called an Hult alum who works in Amazon, and he did a class with us. And I just went out and said that, hey, I know everyone would come to you and ask you for this and that. I am just wanting one thing. Can you connect with me on LinkedIn? Because that exposes me to your Amazon recruiters, and maybe something happens. And he was nice enough, and we connected immediately on LinkedIn. And I think that's my hypothesis, that exposed me to the Amazon recruiters. And then December, December towards the end. So I joined September, and December towards the end, Amazon recruiter reached out to me that they wanted to talk to me. So just to
Nice.
summarize, two steps: keep your resume ready, LinkedIn ready, and keep making. I know it's a cliche that do networking, but it works.
Great. So let's pause there just on December. So you started in September. By December, this recruiter reached out. Let's just pause on this. How do you connect with alumni? So you met this alumni who was part of a faculty member's class, and your ask of that alumni was, could we connect on LinkedIn? It wasn't, hey, do you have any openings at Amazon? And here's my resume. So that's great. That's great. And I like this idea because I don't think a lot of people think about this, but by sheer virtue of you connecting with this alum who works at Amazon. I mean, this alumni is connected with his peers, colleagues, and across the globe from Amazon. And your what you said, hypothesis, is you believe that because you guys were connected, your profile is now visible, obviously, to his connections. Now, so that's great. So visibility is one thing, but then the second part is having a strong LinkedIn profile, right? And so, yeah, because if it doesn't look right, then it doesn't matter how many eyes are on it. Nobody's going to take real notice of it. Great. Okay. And then what happened? So December, they took notice. Somebody reached out to you. Who was that, and how did that go?
So it was a business partner in HR that reached out to me. So I told her about my situation. I'm doing my MBA, would be done by the MBA by the next August. Her first reaction was, "Less than wait." But I knew that I didn't want to wait, right? So I told her, "Hey, hang on. I think I have a visa situation, so I don't think so. Waiting helps you. Let's do the process, and then because if I crack the interview, then you can file my H1B in the same year, April, and then you can have me forever. I mean, until I want to work for you, because I have only 12 months of OPT." She really liked that idea, and she told, "Let's actually fast track your interview process." So I had another round of interview with another HR from the same organization who wanted to hire me, and then they flew me to Seattle for a whole day of interview. Everyone knows how it goes, and then Amazon happened.
Nice. Perfect. Okay, great. And that's like a dream scenario, right? To have an employer petition for an H-1B kind of while you're still studying, right? To your point, usually the way that it works is a student graduates and maybe they start on OPT with the company. If that company likes them and has capacity to hire, they petition for H-1B in that next cycle. So a little bit of persistence and selling on your side, I see, to persuade that recruiter to start the process early. Great.
There's
So
also have a lot of learnings here, right? You use
yeah,
the word persistence. I think it is oftentimes we ignore resume because it's boring, right? I mean, it's boring to tell your own story, right? And keep telling it and keep revising it. So we ignore. I've been talking to probably 800 Hull students for the last 4.5 years, and non-Hull students as well. One common pattern I see is they don't pay attention to their resume as much they need to pay attention to their resume. And I tell to them that it's the only way you're telling the person who is looking at your resume who you are, right? Uh, and you have to be best at that. Because if your resume cannot connect to the person who is reading it, that person wouldn't call. And believe me, there are millions of people who actually apply to Amazon. Everyone knows, right? And so if you really want, and I'm not talking about the format, sometimes I get fancy formats, right? And I keep the format simple, but tell your story strongly. uh, and you have to do it over and over again until you perfect yourself in telling your story. But the day you perfect yourself, your job worry should be gone, because you're taking the best step forward.
absolutely. Great advice. And so you said it. So let's pause on this note. You just said, over the last 3-4 years, you've spoken to like 800 plus students and many HALT students, right? So some of the students in Boston you saw recently in December, early December, and some of what you do with the students is you kind of help them. You look at their resume, you give them advice on how to revise that, perhaps how to revise it specifically for Amazon, and in your opinion, what are some common themes that you see? And I don't want to call them mistakes. Let's call them opportunities. What common opportunities do you see amongst the resumes that you look at, and maybe not just HALT students? Just in general, the resumes that you see across your
I
desk.
think, and I'm also the culprit. But it's a skill that you perfect over time. Nobody's born with a perfect resume writing skills, right? My first resume was 10 pages. Don't laugh at it, right? So I think we try to mix a lot of stories. Let's say if someone wants to be a product manager, right? The resume would stay. First of all, these are disconnected. I always tell people, and thanks to Laura, that your summary is your trailer, right? And then anything below your summary is a proof to that trailer. So your trailer, you're showing a movie and you're saying this is my trailer, and then you're proving why the trailer is so awesome, right? So first thing I see is it's not connected, because I think the art of storytelling we need to master, and because we don't give enough time, we don't master it. And biggest thing is you have to connect the sections together. Otherwise, I stop at a section and I leave your resume. That's first thing which I see often, that the story is not connected. And secondly, we all are generalists, right? I can be a technical program manager, I can be a software development manager, I can be a program manager, product manager, and then your resume tells that all story. It's a, so I'm confused who you want to be as a recruiter, right? Because I'm, let's say, looking for a product manager, so I see everything but product manager, right? And so that's another. I think you need to, students. I would tell students that you need to have a plan A, B, C. And if your plan A is you want to be a product manager, you need to do a feasibility study given the current scenarios, your current skills, what MBA is giving you, and the current market situations. Who you are competing with? Can you really be a product manager? If not, take a pivot. Maybe given your resume and what you're learning at Hult and current scenarios, you're better a program manager. And we're not in that 90s world wherein you first take a job and that role and you're stuck with it for the life. It's not. All companies give you enormous flexibility to be who you are, right? But it's that entry that matters, and you have to match your skills, both hard and soft skills, to the best position that you can actually crack the interview for. So I would say
Great.
disconnected stories and a mix of everything is the biggest problem that I see.
Great. Okay, good. Thank you. And I like this idea of, this plan A, plan B, and when to pivot, and then understanding that, that first role you get isn't the one that you're stuck and married to, right? Presumably, you perform well at your job and you pivot on to, or either you get promoted or you can pivot on to another, another facet of within the company or outside of it. So let's talk about
And
you
have just
because,
one thing I wanted to add. I'm not just preaching it, but I joined as a technical program manager, worked for 1.5 year as a product manager, launching internal products. And now I'm actually maybe pivoting to a software development manager because I'm actually, since the last 1.5 years, since I moved to Austin, I'm playing that role, right?
hmm,
So I'm not just preaching it. It's not unreal. It's extremely real. Go talk to other people in the industry. Uh, Changing roles, wearing multiple hats is something you do every day.
right.
So you're not married to the role, even if you don't change your role.
Right. Good. Thank you. And so that's where I was going next is okay, so what are you currently doing with Amazon and you're out in Austin. So what are you doing out there? And let's maybe talk a little bit about those because you mentioned soft skills at the start. And so I'm very curious as to, what soft skills do you rely on heavily to be most effective in what you do today?
Yeah. So they say my role is a senior technical program manager. I don't own resources. I don't own people teams, but I own big programs to deliver, right? So it's hard when you don't have resources, control over resources, but you still want to deliver. So the biggest skill that comes, there are two ways how you can, manage them in such a situation. Either you actually use your power through your manager, through your escalations, and get the work done. But that's a nasty way of getting the work done. You'll be irritated and frustrated every day. Or you use your soft skill, your influence. In Hull's soft skill track, we taught a lot about influence and how influence can actually take you further. So I use influence. I make relationships. Amazon is not a company which promotes making relationships, but I learned that if you don't make relationships in big organizations, you don't go further, because it's your relationships and your influence that makes people do the work for you, right? And why it is a big thing for me is when I'm working in Amazon, I'm actually working probably across 3 geographies. There's always team from Europe, Canada, US, and oftentimes India, right? So you're working across geographies, you're working across orgs, not just your org wants to do something. When it wants to do something, it has to talk to 5 other orgs, and they have competing priorities, right? So to be able to influence, make connections, and then be able to tell, hey, I have this program and I need your help. I can get you resources, but I need you to navigate me through your org structure to get things done. And that navigation happens through influencing skills. So I
Hmm.
would say one of the top skills in my role is influence. The other thing is, you know, gone are the days wherein your job is very descriptive, right? Uh, I am given ambiguous statements, just one line or two line statements of this is your program, that okay, automate X thing in Amazon, right? And do 80% of automation. Those are the requirements I get from my leadership, nothing else. Then I have to go deep dive and learn what are the current processes, right? What is manual, what can be automated, what constitutes 80%, right? So there's a lot of ambiguity. And then don't wait for instructions, descriptiveness in your job. You have to deal with a lot of ambiguity, whichever level you are. I'm a level 6, whether you're level 5, 7, 8. Dealing with ambiguity is extremely important. And no hard skill can teach you dealing with ambiguity. Yes, so you'll have to apply focus, attention, find more ways to move fast. You cannot really uh, learn 100 systems, right? And say after 6 months give you a project plan. So you have to find your soft ways of talking to people, hallway conversations, right? Maybe taking somebody for coffee, and just learning about their systems. You have to try your ways, because people are busy and they wouldn't just give you time. Again, influence, relationship, and then your uh, ad hoc ways of grabbing information helps.
Okay, great. So let's, a lot of the students here that are on the call, I would imagine have an interest in Amazon. And I know actually we were looking at some of the employment outcomes of last year, and actually just recently. And I know there's a student in Europe that just landed a role at Amazon in Seattle. So we can no doubt ask her about kind of her process, recruitment process. But I'm curious in terms of yourself, 'cause I know you do this a lot with our students. Walking them through what does a typical recruitment process look like at Amazon? What are students up against? What do they need to be prepared for? What are the typical type of, if you want to say, behavioral questions that they should be prepared for, and maybe practical assessment? What does this look like for a student wishing to go down that route?
Yeah, so I think first thing, it starts with your role search, right? There are like so many roles in Amazon, and oftentimes we don't know what kind of roles exist. Um, as a sample, Nav yesterday sent you some 13 unconventional roles. Many people may not know. I sent those to Laura as well. Please share that with your students. So first thing is identify few roles, 5 or 6 roles that you think your skills matches, and then start applying. Your resume only helps you to get a call from Amazon, right? uh, Beyond that, it's your skill. So that's a myth I want to bust, because oftentimes people prepare based on their resume. Amazon and many big companies don't care about what you've done in the past. So they won't ask you, hey, tell me about your previous company, what you did. They'll rather be testing you on your skills. The first step is roles. Second step is apply with the right set of resume. And then I think you will get a call from recruiter if they like your profile. Where referral helps is, let's say if someone from Amazon is referring you, surely recruiter will look at your resume. Versus if you're applying, there are millions of people applying, so maybe not, right? Hundreds of students that I have referred, I could say that 60 to 70% or 80% at least got calls, right? Beyond that, it's them, whether they clear the interview or not, but at least they had a learning. You'll get a call from the recruiter if they like you, and then every org has a different process, but then they test you on some common. It's more behavioral questions which test you on your hard and soft skills. uh, you know uh, there are some assessment tests that are given to engineers, but I have not heard of assessment tests given to anybody else. So in general, it would be behavioral questions on your hard and soft skills. They And it's public information. Amazon focuses a lot on leadership principles, right? There are 14 odd of them. Um, None of them is proprietary to Amazon. None of them should be new to you. But one exercise, and this is the exercise, I only prepared 2 hours for my Amazon interview. And in those 2 hours, what I did was I just found leadership principles that resonate with me. Some leadership principles I'm naturally born with. Some leadership principles I exhibited, learned, and exhibited in my past life. So I would say focusing on your strong powers or superpowers of leadership principles uh, is extremely important. If you could focus on that, if you know there are 5 leadership principles you're super awesome at because you're natural at, right? Just ensure that whether a direct question is asked or not, you show those superpowers, right? So you find ways in telling the story so that your superpowers are always depicted. And the second thing I would say is, and everyone knows it's also public information, I tell it to students, this is the STAR methodology, right? uh, Amazon focuses a lot on it. uh, S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, and R stands for results. uh, so basically they want you to frame your answer again in a very storytelling way. Tell me about a time when you faced with a conflict, and how did you deal with it. That's a question. And then you will say, hey, I was working in India in this fintech firm, US based. uh, I was the tech lead. I had 10 people reporting to me. But there was a situation wherein we had a conflict with the CTO on the kind of technology he wanted to use. So basically, they want you to set the stage up with the situation, and give them enough information about the situation that will depict your skills. So just now, when I said I was a tech lead, tells them that I have leadership qualities, right? I have
Mhm.
depicted it. I had 10 people reporting to me, tells them that I'm a people manager, right? And then we had a conflict with the CTO, tells them that I can take up a fight even with a CTO, right? So I
Mhm.
have the backbone. So they have the way you, every word that you choose, they say in the ad world that it's real estate that you choose very wisely. It's the same, but you frame it in a. That's why they want you to frame it in a star method, so that you can tell them the story and tell them everything important about that story. I won't go in detail about the star. It's there on the web. Happy to coach students if they want to be mentored on star later.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Um, I think we're going to open it up for Q&A for students. I know that a lot of them have questions, and I'm going to read some out that are currently in the chat. But very curious, we started this alumni interview series with Juan Carlos, who's one of our dual degree MIM alums who works at L'Oreal. And the first question really asked him was around um, remote work, right? So given that everybody is kind of in self quarantine, and most people are working from home, what type of adjustment has that been, or how's that adjustment been for him? Interestingly enough, for him, he said it wasn't new because he's used to working 2 days at home. L'Oreal is one of those companies with flexible, remote work opportunity, and I think more and more, COVID or no COVID, there are a lot of companies. P&G is another one. Unilever is another one that has a lot of work from home flexibility. So curious as to how that looks for you, and then if you could speak to more about, not necessarily related to COVID, but if one is to work remotely and work from home, what are the types of skills that they need then to be effective in doing that? So whether that is self-management, time management, but also in the way of collaboration with teams, what do people need to take note of if they are working remotely?
Yeah, and I think to start with, yes, working remotely is not tied to working from home. Like when I'm working in Amazon, I'm working remotely with India, Europe, Canada, right? And within the US, so many different time zones. So and never at a time I had a team just located in one city, right? Always 5 to 10 teams located across across the world, right? So it is a skill. That's why they actually definitely want to focus on your remote working skills, because see, oftentimes employees complain that, hey, uh, I'm working late hours, right, because I'm working with India, or hey, I'm working non-friendly hours, right? uh, and then it becomes an HR nightmare, right? So biggest thing working remotely is how do you manage your time, right? And priorities. If you want to talk to India, right, uh, maybe do you think an email would do? If an email would do, then write a descriptive good email, right? But if you think you cannot wait for 24 hours because oftentimes you don't cannot, then maybe do it at times I generally do my India calls after my dinner, right? After I put my baby to sleep, maybe I'll take half an hour. It's less stressful to take half an hour during the night than to wake up immediately to a call. I like my mornings to be, I want to start with non-work items, have my tea, read my news, do some exercise. I don't want my mornings to be rushed. So I think uh, time management and priority management is important. Now, the third thing that also comes very handy is I go back to the influencing skills, right? Uh, Building your partnerships across geographies is so important that people don't cancel on you or don't reschedule on you often, right? You want something from India immediately, and if you have not built that relationship, you're gonna actually get stressed. You'll probably try 5 times in the morning, 5 times in the night to try to reach out to people, and they are not interested because they have 10 other things going on and they work in a different time zone. So every time I work remotely, I find a person or a couple of persons who I could reach out to anytime, either over the phone or over Amazon's internal chat networks, and I can get an answer over a chat. I don't have to schedule a call, right? So those three things I would say matter, and don't ignore your ability to showcase how you can work remotely without creating a burnout situation for you, plus without delaying project. You cannot say that, hey, my India team isn't responding for 2 days, and that's why I'm going red on my program. Not an answer nobody wants to listen to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Cool, thank you. So students, we'll open this up for Q&A now. So if you have a question, certainly you can do one of two things. You can either type it in the Q&A box. If you'd like to raise your hand, we'll see if we can unmute you and you can say your question verbally. So while you're thinking of your question, there have been a few in the chat. One was, thank you so much for sharing. We are Halt students, more focused on business. Does Amazon focus on candidates with coding skills? So good question. A lot of times when we think about tech companies, we think that coding is the only type of available role there. But as you said, you did send across, I saw the email 13, you called them unconventional roles at Amazon. But can you maybe speak on kind of what does Amazon, hire for? Is it always just tech jobs, or what degree of technical skill do I need if I'm going to work at Amazon?
So I think that's also a myth, right? Amazon has now grown so big and actually has gone into so many industries that it hires a lot of non-tech people, a lot of them, right? So it's a myth. Uh, you can choose a job which includes business and tech, which is my job, senior technical program manager. You can choose a purely business job and you have nothing to do with technology, but you would use tools. I mean, this is 21st century. You would use tools, right? But nothing to do with engineers, nothing to do, right? Or you could purely be in tech roles, right? And they're tech roles wherein they only ask for technical skills. But one pattern is common among all of them, right? Having an MBA makes you much more marketable, make you much more ready for promotion, because even if when you're doing tech, you are doing tech for business, right? And Amazon does not, say that, hey, engineers don't talk to business. Amazon is quite open. If you have the skills to be able to go and talk to the business, go do that, right? So I would say business skill is needed across, right? Maybe it's more preferable for tech jobs but not required. But then anybody having a business skill, so if you're a coder and you're doing MBA at Hult, you can, and if you can crack the coding interview, you would do better in Amazon than a coder without MBA skills.
Okay, great. Cool, thank you. And so for the students on the call, Umesh did share this list of unconventional, you called it unconventional roles at Amazon. So these are ones that are kind of more aligned to, I guess, the nature of the question the student had asked. So just stay tuned. We'll be sending those out to students so that you can investigate and see which ones are a good fit for you.
Just one thing
This is
there,
more about,
Nav. I don't want
yeah,
to talk about the unconventional roles, but I do want to talk about an unconventional way of job search with those
yeah.
roles, right? Oftentimes, you only look at Amazon corporate and you say, I want to join Amazon as a product manager, technical program manager, business analyst. But there are a lot of unconventional roles you will definitely share with the students. So you don't have to join Amazon corporate. You can join Amazon warehouse, right? Maybe a lower bar in terms of the skills they are looking at, but definitely Amazon warehouse is the one of the biggest operational warehouses in the world. right? There's a lot goes on in the warehouse that you can showcase your skills, that you can learn, and then get into Amazon corporate. I've known an Hult alum, my classmate, who joined as an FC associate. So this is a warehouse associate wherein you pick items and you pack items, right? Completely, I would say, not an awesome job, but now he is actually an operations manager in that FC, right? Uh, Sometimes you have to maybe compromise on a role, right, to just get in. But then if you have the skills, you get promoted in Amazon if you have the skills left, right, and center, right? Or you can change. I think this guy joined 3 years back, and within 3 years he has moved on to leadership role in operations in Amazon warehouses, which is a very respected position because Amazon warehouses are known to be the logistic nightmare. uh, there's a lot goes on to deliver products to you, and
Yeah.
heart of what goes on is in the Amazon warehouses.
The students here on the Boston campus, we did a few trips to the warehouse out that's 45 minutes away from campus, which we were told we don't call a warehouse, we call it the what was the name of it? The fulfillment
The
center, right? The
fulfillment center.
FC.
the
Yeah.
fulfill yes, MJ. Yeah, so it is. You're right. It's actually a marvel when you look at kind of how product moves from shelf to box and ultimately to a customer. Pretty cool. Great. So this is more about Amazon strategy. So I'm not sure how much detail you have on this, but one of the students is asking, we've lately seen Amazon has been investing heavily in Southeast Asia and Europe. Do you believe Africa could see a surge in Amazon investments in the future?
Yep. So I think let me try to be careful in this, but I can definitely answer at high level. See, 2013 Amazon was not even in India, right? It's 2013 that Amazon went to India. It had a competition from a company called Flipkart, which was actually founded by ex-Amazonians. They went to India and they started something like Amazon, right? What is needed for a company like Amazon? It's an e-commerce company, right? So if there is good mobile penetration, computer penetration, and a good internet connectivity, right? Uh, Amazon can do good, and Amazon is doing actually good in Europe, right? Is now not just in India; it's in China. Didn't work out that great for Amazon, but Dubai did, right? So I think why not Africa? Are there countries in Africa? I think Africa, some of the countries in Africa are so well connected using telecom. I won't say internet, right? And Amazon wants to spread the wings, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they are actually looking and studying at Africa market and changing their models and the way they actually connect to people. Given the Africa challenges of low internet connectivity, I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at different models, right? But knowing Jeff Bezos, he wants to create a web. He's a spider, and Africa is definitely part of that web.
Awesome. Good. And preface your response by saying, that isn't an official Amazon response, obviously.
It's not.
It is that's right. It is your opinion as a member of the team there. Okay, good. Next question. How easy is it to switch roles once you're in the company? Student is saying, I'm wondering if that could be difficult to switch once you're experienced in one area. So once you get rooted or have this, subject matter expertise in one area, what is the likelihood of moving to another part of the company?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. Often comes, and I also deal with it for my personal career situations. There's one thing of getting an official role, which the process may take 1 to 2 years, right? Best case 6 months. Best case are not very common. But there's another thing of you playing the role, right? So it's very common that you find teams and orgs wherein you have to play multiple roles because they don't have the resources, they don't have that many people, or they don't have people with the right skills. So Amazon gives you a lot of freedom for you to poke your nose in wherever you have the skills. So as a technical program manager, the current program that I'm running, I'm playing a software development manager role, QA lead role. I'm also playing a business role in licensing with the product managers and trying to build the product definition that I want the product to look like, right? So you can play a lot of roles in Amazon unofficially to build your skills, and then the process of officially changing it may take 1 to 2 years, right? But it happens. right? I've been playing multiple roles in Amazon since last 4 years, based on my interest for that year. Learned a lot, showcased a lot of skills, and then if you push hard, within 12 to 18 months, you can change a role.
Mm. Okay, awesome, great, thank you. Just looking at the Q&A, I don't see any questions. And just for students, I did say you could raise your hand. I forgot we're using Zoom webinar, so I actually don't see if you hit a hand raise button. So if you do have a question, please do put it in the Q&A. While we wait for any further questions, Umesh. So you mentioned earlier that you've been supporting Halt students a lot in the way of, so we do these on-campus events. We've had you dial in on, some virtual webinars in the past. And in that, the follow-up is usually a student will connect with you on LinkedIn. I know it's times you've shared, sometimes your phone number with students, and I know no doubt you get bombarded with a lot of, a lot of students, and you're happy to help where possible, which is very noble. And, we certainly thank you. Thank you for that. But if a student is going to contact you, and I don't want to call it rules of engagement, but what prep do you want them to do before they connect with you, so that you can maybe better utilize your time and their time, and more efficiently help them?
Yeah, I think the biggest prep they could do is in deciding what industries they want to go for, and then what roles they feel they are, given their skills, are fit for. Because a lot of my time goes in, mentoring students, and I'm happy to do that. But then I think, because I've talked so much to so many other students, and there are other people who are talking. There's, you, Laura. I think there's so much resident knowledge within HALT for you to be ready with your resume. So work seriously with your career advisors. Uh, be clear on what kind of roles you're looking for, right? I'm okay if you're fuzzy. You ask me to choose between 20 roles, I'll help you. But if you come with an empty slate, it takes a lot, because I have to really pay attention to your skills. Often your resume does not tell the story. So I go on a call and really ask people, tell me every year what you did. uh, because I want to do my job in a more perfect way. I'm a perfectionist, so I want to really understand who you are and what your skills are before I can start referring you. And that takes a lot of time. If you could do the legwork of ensuring that you've talked to your career advisors, made your resume ready, and also you've actually done the industry and the role research, half of my job is done, and then I can prep you for the interview.
Great. Okay, good. Thank you. I think that'll be super helpful for students who are wishing to reach out, but also super helpful to respect your time as well. We've got some few other questions here. Are there other sites besides LinkedIn, and speaking to yourself, of course, to get a foot in the door with Amazon? And so I guess my interest also in this question is, how many applications are picked up from Amazon recruiters through, say, Amazon's own career site, so whatever, amazon.com/careers, whatever it happens to be. So two-part question: what are the other avenues to get noticed by Amazon, and what is the likelihood of an application that goes directly to Amazon's website? What is the likelihood of that getting picked up? If you could comment on those two.
I can probably, I don't have the numbers, but I can definitely comment based on my experience. Probably I have referred, don't know the exact number, 250 to 300 Haltians in the past, right? I'm sure at least 150, 160 of them got a call, uh, and they move forward in different steps. They probably bailed out, right? Uh, so that means one thing is sure, that if you get a referral, definitely your chances increase multifolds, right? Because Amazon do want to respect employees taking time to refer people, right? So they do flag that it's a referral resume, and then a recruiter 100% looks at it. If a recruiter is not calling you back, that means your resume didn't tell the story, or you were misfit for that role, right? And which is okay. Uh, but then LinkedIn is a network, and I know it's a cliche, and I myself get 100 messages in a week on LinkedIn, right? That I'm not able to scale to. But LinkedIn is extremely important. uh, Making connect, but it's just one step. You cannot ask a stranger to refer, right? Maybe in Hult, I think Nav, you told us, do a coffee call, right? Maybe in COVID days, do a coffee call.
Right.
Non-COVID days, do a coffee meetup, right? Uh, one other thing that I remember that Laura told me, we don't be on the weak ground when you're reaching out to people. There are people looking for talent all the time, right? So it's a handshake. It's not that you are the only one seeking. Uh, the other party is also seeking, right? But how you approach is important. Sometimes I get messages, "Hey, thanks for connecting. Can you refer me?" And I give more benefit of doubt because I see how challenging it is to find a job in a different country than yours. But then don't do that. I get ticked off when somebody says, "Hey, hi, refer me," right? I don't like it because I won't refer you until I know you, right? So please take the time to make quality collections, not quantity, right? Uh, Talk to people and tell them your story. Maybe there's someone from Ecuador, right? And you're from Ecuador. Connect with them. A, there's a country connection, so there is an emotional connection. And B, who knows, they want to open up a startup in Ecuador later, right? And they remember you, right? So you have to really think through all those scenarios in making the right quality connections and then following through, because referrals are always having higher chances of getting a call than non-referrals, because even in this market when millions of people are looking for a job, do look for people to refer you, but don't bombard them, and don't spam them.
Great, absolutely, it makes sense. Um, I have so you were an MBA candidate, so you came to the program with experience. You're taking experience to Amazon. To your knowledge, how much does work experience matter to Amazon? The question here is, how do recruiters pull your LinkedIn when you don't have prior industry experience? So let's think about from the perspective of someone who's early career. And I know Amazon has graduate programs and things of that nature that are meant for folks that are in this bucket. But to your knowledge, how does Amazon see early experience and early career folks, and what's the best way for those folks to get connected to Amazon?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Definitely comes when I talk to young people. So there's one thing I tell, and probe me if I'm not able to tell the story well. That you don't have to wait for a job to gain an experience, right? Uh, uh, the projects that you do at Hult, my project at Hult, I still sell, right? Because when I did it like I'm doing it for the company, right? So your projects that you're given at Hult, whether it's a marketing project, accounting project, finance project, do it seriously and really respect Hult's experiential learning. Because if you're doing it seriously and actually gaining that skill, put that in your resume. I actually had a section, and I still, for my wife, yesterday I was making her resume. She's getting back to job after 3 years of taking care of the baby, and we built a section of academic projects, right? Or I call it academic experience. It matters, but oftentimes, you would see education, halt, and I did XYZ project, and that's it, right? No, convert that, do your project in the right way, and then put it in your academic experience, so that if you don't have any other experience, you have that academic experience. Let's talk about other ways, right? Everything is on the web, on the cloud now, right? Whether you want to be a marketeer, when I was at Hult, I was actually working with an Indian Pakistani restaurant down the street, in helping him with the business processes, because you need to find your ways of how you can you, is there a small business in your locality near where you live, and actually you can help them with your marketing skills, accounting skills, or your technology skills. All those experiences matter, right? So again, input and hard work is important. Don't say that, hey, I don't have an experience, so I won't crack it. You need to think big, you need to dream big, but for thinking big and dreaming big, you need to do big. And so find your ways of gaining that experience. And you don't have to have a job experience, because you can actually stand out with other experiences of yours if you do it right.
Great, thank you, and thank you for mentioning that, because I think often that's a question from somebody who was very early career, is I don't have a lot of experience, and companies want experience. A little bit of a myth, sometimes, and but I like your point about experiential learning. I mean, that's the benefit of studying at like an institution like Hult. You've got all these experiential learning opportunities, and you're doing these live projects. In your time, it was called the Action Project. It went to HBC, Hult Business Challenge, and now it's the Future Mindset Challenge. But in any event, it is experiential learning project. And yesterday, we actually were speaking to an alumnus from Google, who said the exact same thing, right? And she was fairly early career when she was looking for her role. And she still to this day talks about her Halt Business Challenge project with Siemens, right? And leverages kind of the skills she's demonstrated and the insights that her team produced, in conversations he has with employers and even folks within Google. So that's good to hear. It's good to hear
I
that
do
there's
want to take that
consistency.
opportunity to highlight some other soft skills that we learn at Hult and we crib about it. And,
Mm,
team playing skills, ability to interact with people from other countries, so important in Amazon. It is
mm,
so important. So if you think that, Hult is wasting your time and putting you in a room with people from 5 countries who think so differently, and actually you fight, and I have fought with my team members, it is a skill. It's a conflict management skill. It's,
mm.
knowing what's in others' mind skill. And it's also trying to understand what the other person is saying by not saying skill. Okay. And it is so important in companies who hire people. Everyone is caring about diversity now. Everyone is hiring from people from different aspects of life, different countries, right? And having a woman in the team is so important, because having their perspective, which is often different from your perspective, is so important, because at the end of the day, the output that you come up with is the best output. So that is also a skill that you learn, and that's all. So you can mention that in your experience. I have experience of working with people from 5 different countries, right? And have experience of fighting with them and still coming back to the class, and excelling at the project. That is also a skill that you need, and Hult teaches you, and you can highlight in your resume. I got $10,000 more from Amazon just for telling them that, hey, Hult teaches me soft skills, and this is my proof. And I use my impact project, and I negotiated. I told other MBAs versus me, I am different, so you pay me more. And they really respected, and they responded with by increasing $10,000. And thanks, Laura, for again, Laura helped me there to ensure that you cannot just accept the offer, you have to negotiate.
That's right. And thank you for bringing that up, right? So for students that are on the call, particularly where you're in a position to negotiate salary, which is almost always, you should definitely take that opportunity, and your career advisor is going to give you some great advice on how to do that given your situation. Umesh, Marcus has a question around, again, this is along the lines of experience. Many junior positions already require 3 to 5 years of work experience. I have about 2 years of experience, and I feel I miss out on many opportunities because of that number. Do you have any advice on how to solve this? And I think part of this is also Amazon or not Amazon, right? What is your perspective on, you see a job posting that says, let's say 3 to 5 years of experience required, and you have 2, right? How much flexibility is there, and how do you go about, if you are that person with 2 years of experience applying for something that requires 4 in a job description? How do you overcome that, and what might you be able to substitute in the way of in lieu of that, the experience, the actual years of experience? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think realizing where you fit is important. This is often another mistake that I see from all students. When they send me job referrals and job IDs, they send me job IDs for senior product manager, right? Which is level 6. I'm not saying you cannot be hired at level 6, but oftentimes they require, extensive senior product experience in the past for you to be a senior product manager, right? So I would say, if it's like you have never played a product manager role, then start from the first step, right? Become a product manager. But let's say if you've played product roles in the past, have you played in startups? If you have, it matters. But to Amazon, maybe they would say the scale wasn't there, right? So I would still start with the product manager role. Even if you are a senior product manager in a startup, you won't be a senior product manager in Amazon or Google. You probably will crack a product manager role. So don't get married to the roles. I was a general manager in India, and I'm a senior technical program manager now. Is that a demotion? No. I took a pivot because there are skills I wanted to learn, and there's a corporate culture that I wanted to be in, which is non-startup, right? So you need to realize where you fit. Now let's come to the question that, hey, I have only 2 years of experience and I fit nowhere, right? So then the question is that 2 years of experience, can that translate into 3 to 4 years of experience, right? Oftentimes it's said that if you work in a startup, a 2 years experience is actually like a 5 years experience, right? If you work in Amazon, 4 years in Amazon is probably a decade in Dell. Okay. So if you think that, your 2 years of experiences was so strong and you did such impactful work, then actually it is like a 5 year or 4 year experience. Go for it. What else would you do? You know, better to take an action than to just sit, right? So I would say, if you can, if you're not faking, if you're not pretending, and you really feel that your 2 years of experience can match somebody of 4 years of experience, then go for it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to, because I do see a hand up. So Jessica has her hand up. I'm going to unmute you, Jessica. If you have a question that you want to say out loud, please go ahead and do so.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thanks so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And I'm sure all of us on the call do. I like to ask speakers what's one piece of advice they would have given their younger selves. Currently, I'm a sophomore. So if there's something that you would have told your sophomore self while in college to do differently career-wise, or just a general life lesson, what would that be? Thank you.
Sure. Hi, Jessica. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And this is a question which is very dear to me. So, an extremely important question. I really like that you raised it. Uh, it's oftentimes, working backwards to who you want to be, right? Many people will say it's philosophical. I want to explore the world. But then you don't have to explore the world by spending 20 years in the world, right? You can explore the world by reading books. You can explore the world by looking at others and how they have shaped their careers. So when I was in 10th standard, uh, I made up my mind that I want to be in technology, right? And then I started working backwards from there. I wanted to be in technology. In another 2, 3 years, I knew that I wanted to open my own company sometime in my life, and I started working backwards from that dream. So I would say, biggest advice to young people I would give, that don't procrastinate, and don't live in the present. Uh, think about the future and the kind of future you want. If you're confused, I talk to a bunch of young, people also in India nowadays. They're all confused. They don't know, right? Because they have never been in this industry. But that's where the internet age is helping us, right? Go on YouTube and look for people. Look for Steve Jobs and what he did, right? Jeff Bezos and what he did, or Starbucks CEO, what he did. All of them didn't have great or outstanding education, but they had one thing in common. They had a dream and they knew how to chase it. Uh, Oftentimes, young people are confused in India culturally. Parents tell you what to do, right? You take it, you spend few years and you didn't like it, then you try exploring. But a lot of time is lost in that exploration. So I'm not against exploration, but smart people learn from other people's mistake, and they also learn from other people's steps. So if you are young and confused, good state to be in. But B, read books, go on YouTube's, learn about people in different industries, and see what rings the bell in your heart. It's oftentimes at that age, it is not your mind, but it should ring the bell in your heart. I wanted to be a technologist because it rang the bell in my heart. What is ringing the bell for you? And just listen to that inner voice and start chasing it. Halt happened to me because I'm still chasing my dream to start my own company, and I thought no other college can give me best business education for my dream of opening my company than Halt, given my research on Halt and what how they were teaching. So do that, and I think probably you'll be in a better state and less confused state. And talk to people. There are so many people uh, who have made mistakes. I've made mistake in life. All right. I decided to do my MBA way late in my life, and it was tough for me and my family, especially for me and my wife. It was tough, but we learned a lot. But if on the hindsight, I would say do an MBA earlier than when you're 32.
Thank
Great.
you so much.
Awesome. I want to be respectful of your time because we are approaching 1 o'clock. But do you have 5 more minutes so I can get through some questions, or?
I took a half day off, so yeah, I have some more time.
Okay, so we're going to spend the entire afternoon with you, but let me get to you because there's some really good questions out here. One is about resume. So I know this is often a burning question, and depending on where you come from in the world, the resume standards are different, right? But the student here is asking, does the resume have to be 1 page? Could it also be 2 pages? What is your perspective, particularly as it relates to Amazon, right? What is is there a preference, first of all, for 1 page or 2?
Good question. I started my resume with 10 pages, but now it's 1 page. So see, it's a fast moving world. The people that you're applying, don't have time. They have thousands of resumes to look at, right? Nobody goes beyond your summary and skills. Maybe they get to your professional experience a bit. Uh, so I'm saying, if it's critical information and you cannot fit it in one page, sure, go to 1.5 page. It's tolerable. Beyond 1.5 page, you're wasting your time, because nobody's gonna read that much. Even if you have the best resume in the world, uh, people just don't have the time in today's time. They want to look at your summary, and if they're amazed at your summary and they have looked at your skill, maybe they want to verify that skill in one or two of your experiences, and they're done, right?
Mm.
So if you can restrict it to one page, you have done an awesome job. From 10 page to one page, it was a big job for me. Thanks to Laura. 1.5 page is still okay. Don't go beyond that.
Perfect. I'm gonna ask you one more resume question. And I sense one day you're gonna write a book on resumes, on how to write a resume, but here's one for you. So student is Marco here is thanking you for your time and your advice. He has one question around what do you value more when looking at someone's story in a resume? Is it personal motivation, responsibilities related to the position applied for? Is it their skills, or kind of a combination of all of the above? What do you look for in a story?
So first of all, there has to be a story. When I visited Hull, Boston, somehow the decision was made to remove the summary, and I was constructively frustrated because if you don't tell me who you are in your summary, I'm not going to look at your resume. And that's how most people are. We are not hiring robots, right? We're hiring people, and we want to connect to you. And the best way to connect to you is to listen to your story, right? And now, what should be in your story? Oftentimes, it's very mundane, and mine was too, right? So, I'm just being very transparent and critical. So don't think that I'm actually trying to dampen your mood. I'm just saying that we all start with a 10-page resume, a super bad summary, but we learn. Not everyone is having a great writing skills. So your summary should be telling you that it should be depicting your passion, your dream, right? And it should be connecting to the person who is reading it, right? I want to work for the best e-commerce company in the world is a cliche, but if you write that and say why, it's actually important, right? My wife's resume says she wants to be the best app developer in the world, right? And then she says how she's getting there, right? So those are not cliches. They tell you that that is a think big statement, and Amazon's leadership principle insist on thinking big, right? Uh, Obviously, they will look beyond your summary and see whether you have done think big things in your life or not, or whether you are doing right, whether you're doing volunteering with a orphanage, right? To go give 1 hour in a week, that's think big, right? You're trying to do something big with your life. Not many people do, right? Maybe thousands do, not millions. So depict your passion, depict your dream, right? Everyone has a dream, right? And then depict your creativity, right? To make it less mundane, it's like a power statement. I call it a power statement, right? It should ignite power in me. When I read it, I should get electric shock. That's how strong your resume summary should be. I hope that answers your question, Marco.
Great, thank you for that. And I just wanted to comment on this, because I think this call and kind of the advice that you're giving is kind of um, when we think about informational interviewing, or we think about connect, as we said earlier when we started this, when you connect with alumni, sometimes the first questions you should ask, beyond the hey, is your company hiring, are things like this, like, so what does your company look for in a resume, right? Because you're right, we have this halt resume standard, this template that does not have this profile summary anymore, and it used to back in the day, and it doesn't. But
It
this
should be
is
back.
more which it should be back, right? But this is more of a reason why, as a student, for students on this call, when you're interested in working at companies, is to connect with those people that are within their alumni, or folks that you meet, and ask these types of questions, right? That's part of that informational interview, right? So how do you, what does a good resume look like for this type of company? And then you start to uncover, and you find out a profile summary works for you and folks at
And let me
Amazon, right?
tell you two big examples, right? I haven't been applying, but I interviewed with Google last year,
Mhm.
all based on my LinkedIn profile. They reached out to me, and that same girl, because I made the connection, messaged me 2 weeks back. Hey, I know we didn't talk since a year, but I really liked you, and I would want you to actually pursue some more job openings at Google. Right. So this is a Google recruiter reaching out to me over email. I was in India. I didn't respond to the email for 1 month. Then she actually pulls up my phone number and messages me, and she says it is unprofessional, but I don't want to lose you, right? And same thing happened with Facebook. They reached out to me 3 months back. Not that I'm actively looking for a job, so don't quote me on that. But they reached out to me 3 months back, and it is that summary. And when they talk to me, it's the passion they see, right? And they actually want to talk to you more, right? Maybe you didn't crack one interview, but they still want remember you after a year. That's how important it is, and we don't feel it that important because when I see summaries, they are fast because I find it boring to keep writing my summary. I hear you. I find it boring to do my resume again and again, right? But it is the most important thing. You have invested so much time and money, and if you don't do that most important thing, you're not doing justice to you.
Great, cool, thank you. Um, how unusual is it for Amazon to take graduates as interns and then offer them full-time jobs afterward? Is it a recommended? Is it recommended as an kind of an entry?
I think Amazon hires a lot of interns, but then they go through a university hiring program, right? So then they're actively working with the universities. So I would really encourage her to find ways to become one of the universities that they actually hire interns from. So that channel, I can refer you as intern, or anybody else can refer you as intern, but it's a more restrictive channel because the set of recruiters and the process that they follow is completely different. But if you're a young student without experience, exploring that intern channel is very important because I've seen if you do a good job as an intern, Amazon will hire you, and they don't have a cap on the number of interns they want to hire. If 100% of the interns they took this year and they all were awesome, they'll hire off all of you. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I've seen interns in my team.
Good to hear. Um, Student here, I guess, is saying, nice to have you back, Umesh. Maybe a personal question. I see you're an all-around person with personal life mentoring and your job. What management secret would you share? Great.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
keys to
Let,
success.
Uh, I mean, I think one thing that my father taught is you learn from everybody and everything around you, right? Uh, I I've have my education from good enough schools in India. They were not the top, they're not the outstanding, but my father always taught learn from everyone, right? So you can learn from nature, right? You can learn from a beggar on the road, right? How to deal with tough situations. So your leadership and management skills not only built by reading books. I do read a lot. I used to read a lot of books. After my newborn, it's less often, but then read a lot of books. But then also talk to people. Whether it's the grocery store guy, right, or the beggar, or the Amazon delivery guy, uh, or the plumber, uh, the electrician that comes to my house. He's an entrepreneur, right? He's an electrician. He's an entrepreneur, very happy with his job, never wanted an IT job, has his own home in Austin, right? And he's so busy that there's a wait time of 2 weeks. So you can learn from, you don't have to just learn from Jeff Bezos, right? Or Steve Jobs. You can learn from anybody and everybody that cross your life, right? So if you have that open mindset of learning from anybody and everybody, you learn leadership and management skills, because oftentimes people at tough situations teach you about leadership. you know uh, you know uh, an electrician who is working in COVID times tells you how he takes ownership seriously, or his customers seriously. A beggar who is begging tells you how difficult sometimes life gets, but he's still not ending his life. uh, I'm not justifying begging, uh, but he has to do that to eat. But the same beggar, after 1 or 2 years, you might see writing blogs, right? Because there are NGOs letting them do something. right? So you can learn so many things from so many, and I'm using those examples because generally people use all the big examples. They use examples of Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, and whatnot. But there are aspects in life, and there are people in life who teach you skills from most unwarranted scenarios, right? So just keep your eyes and ears open and take life as a learning every day. That will teach you the biggest management and leadership lessons. And plus, read a lot of books if you have time.
Perfect. Thank you. One final question then. What is the best way in your mind to build quality connections with people? So, we talked a little bit about networking earlier, but in terms of building quality connections and maybe growing that network with, and from the perspective of, you're coming from abroad, you're in a new country, new city, making new friends, developing a new network. How do you go about doing that effectively with quality in mind?
So there's there's this saying, right? And I think that book I would recommend, Robin Sharma's, you know, who will cry when you die, right? And there's, I think, some chapter in that book refers, right? It's about genuine interest in people, right? Uh, I'm genuinely interested in seeing health students be successful, right? Nav and Laura and MJ gives me platform. So nice of them to do that. Uh, but I am also actually benefiting from this because uh, when I tell my story or when I answer to your questions, they are questions that I think ring the bell in my mind, right? Of what next I can do, right? And also when I'm hiring, I reach out to people. My 3,000 connections in LinkedIn are so helpful that, when you grow into different industries, and if I'm opening up a company in India, I need people and I may reach out to you, right? So generally showing genuine interest, that, hey, I'm not just coming to you because you work for Amazon and you can refer me. I'm coming to you because I want to make a genuine connection, and not every connection is genuine, right? The way Nav and Umesh is talking, the same way not other 200 Hult people are talking to me, right? I think Nav thought that I can help, and Nav was nice enough to create platforms wherein I can help myself too, right? So I would find people like Nav, MJ, Laura's in my LinkedIn network. Those are people generally interested in others, and then try to, maybe do a call with them. If they are in the same city, do a coffee with them. And sometimes I would fly. If I really met a very good mentor, I would invest the money to fly and just meet them, right? So find genuine people. You would also find people who are not interested, and that's fine. There are thousands and millions of people. Not everyone will be interested. You would find people who are interested in you, not because what they can get from you today, just because they want to make connections and they want to learn, and they want you. Young people see life in so different ways, right? And we can learn from those young people. When I look at resumes, some of the awesome resumes from Hull students, or so much serious you guys are for your job at this age, it gives me hope, right? That you guys are doing the right thing for the world. It also gives me energy that I'm still young at 38. So yeah, I would say that.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. So with that said, then Umesh, thank you again for dedicating time and for sharing kind of your wisdom, both on life in general, career advice, advice specific to Amazon. I know we certainly appreciate it. I know the students always appreciate interacting with you. And when this is all said and done, when this COVID situation is all over with, I'm sure we'll see you at some point on one of our campus locations again. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Nav. Thanks, MJ, for setting this up. And thanks, everyone who joined from across the world. Happy to help. Find out how I can help you. Go talk to Nav, and he can create situations that I can help you. Okay.
Awesome. All right, great. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Yep. Bye-bye.